Hello, today we are reviewing Red Rising from Stonemaier Games. So this is a hand management game, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Before we get into it though, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell over there so that you can follow along as we go through our collection of 3,000-ish games and...
Ish.
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 The ish part is
Yeah,
the favorite.
the ish.
And let's talk about what this game.
All right, so this is Red Rising. The Board Game Geek rating is 7.3 and overall rank is 879. It plays 1 to 6 players. It's designed by Alexander Schmidt and Jamie Stegmaier. Art by Jackie Davis, Miles Binsky, and Justin Wong. Published by Stonemaier Games. MSRP is $40, but you can get it at Card House and some other locations for $27.99.
All right. So looking at the quality of pieces, first of all, the cards are the predominant pieces,
Yep.
and they are linen finished.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty good thickness.
Yeah, they're not bad.
I'm not. What size would you consider? This isn't tarot size.
Yeah, it's not tarot size. It's not. It's a lot. It feels
They're
like it's a little bit
thinner.
smaller
Yeah,
than
I think
Magic
it's probably
the
a
Gathering
euro,
size.
maybe.
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, I think, than a Magic the Gathering card.
But there are a lot of cards.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
You get plastic little tokens in each player color, and there's 10 of those.
And then to note, this is the retail version. So if you pre-ordered it, there was a collector's edition, like what Stonemaier does. And so the cubes are metal, and you have actually, for the cards, you got card stands.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
All right, and then your spaceships look like little garden gnomes, but
Not to me.
yeah, they are.
Whatever.
Mine was the SS Garden Gnome, so
Whatever.
that's why I didn't fly very far. Those are for one mechanism of scoring.
Yep.
And then you have the standard Ascension-like red little gems.
That represent helium in this game.
But they're in a wolf head shaped case, which is
Yep.
pretty cool. Actually, that's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's got a cover that fits nicely on there. And then there's the Sovereign token.
And then
gets
that's made
passed
out of
around.
metal on the collector's edition.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it should have been. Other than that, you got some cardboard markers.
Yeah,
for
but it's a
each
pretty
player.
good thickness for the faction
Yeah.
cards. So pretty good thickness of cardboard.
And a little central board
Mhm.
and a big chunky die.
Yep, that's called a rising die.
So, all right. So overall, it's pretty nice pieces. I mean, it's not outstanding. There's nothing extraordinary about
Right.
it. But I'll give it probably a 7.
I agree. I think 7's a good score for it.
All right, so moving on to theme. So I guess if you're familiar with the book,
Yes.
it would probably help.
Yes.
But-
So this is based off of the same name book, Red Rising, by Pierce Brown. It's a series of books. So this is based off of the first one. And I just started reading it. It's a pretty darn good book so far. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. But like all the characters that I've read so far, I've seen representation in the cards, as well as the different types of people that are in the book as well. So it's not just named characters, but like a judge or something like that is in here as well.
But apart from that, if you don't know the books, like me, it's just generic science fiction. There's really, it's basically layered on. There's nothing gameplay related to the different characters.
Right. And I could see you saying that, but just the feel I got from the book, I think it does actually a pretty good job because the book is all about these color factions.
Mm-hmm.
And so how the colors relate to each other in the books, I get that same feeling in the game. So I think thematically it's actually pretty strong.
By the faction, but what about the character? I'm assuming
Well, I
that
haven't seen a whole lot of named characters, but but the named characters that I've read in the book and what I've seen in here at the same time, because there's a ton of cards, so I haven't seen them all, but they do reference each other. So thematically, again, the named characters do look at other named characters that make sense from the book.
Okay, so there is some correlation, but the actual abilities of the cards look like they're just kind of a generic set collection.
Right. But thematically, I think I could see you not rating it as high as I would. Because I have read the book.
Because, I mean, this theme, I like sci-fi, so I'm not going to be harsh on it, but it's nothing stands out thematically for me. I'll give it probably a 7.
See, I'm going to go a little bit, actually quite a bit higher. I think it's about a 9 for me because it really, I feel the book coming through this game. And there's not a whole lot of board games based off of books where I think the theme is quite this strong. So I like it quite a bit, so I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay. So moving on to the rulebook, I didn't read this one, so this is all you.
It's actually a pretty easy game to teach. I think the tough part was just the mechanics that we'll talk about in the gameplay, but it's actually Actually, playing the game is 2 or 3 pages, and that's it. The rest of it is just talking about how to score at the end of the game, and that is one of the more complex part of the games is trying to figure out what your score is. So the rule book I think does a very good job. I only had to reference it the one time. I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay. All right, so moving on to gameplay. So you start the game out with a hand of 5 cards, and then in each region there are 2 cards already on the board. So the cards have several parts to them. They have a score value at the end of the game if they're in your hand, what they're worth. They have an ability when they're played to the board in most cases, although some just have a shield, at which point they are a blocker to protect you from something.
But that's called the deploy action when you play a card from your hand onto the board.
And then at the bottom, it'll have potentially some additional bonus scoring that will go along with the score at the top as added points if certain conditions are met. So you're one of the big ways of scoring is by probably the biggest way of scoring is by collecting sets of cards that go together, because your hand size starts at 5. It is possible to increase it, but there's very few ways to do so. So you're going to have to get specific cards that give you specific conditions that are met in order to get more cards. Otherwise, you're swapping cards out throughout the game. So it is, I think I ended the game with 7, and I had the potential to have gotten an 8th card that I kind of wasted. But the highest card count we had was 8, so it is possible to get more. But there are penalties when we get scoring. We'll talk about for having too many cards. So each turn, you're going to end up basically playing a card to the board, and replacing it and drawing a card from the deck or from one of the other locations. So when you play the card, it has a deploy action on it, as Robert mentioned, that will trigger, and it will give you an ability if you meet the condition of that deploy. Some of them are just automatically met, but some of them are based upon the cards that are in play.
Right. It might look for a specific color, and if the color's not there, then you don't get the
or a specifically named card.
Exactly.
And generally it's going to be the card that's on top that's available, but there are some cards that let you go through the entire deck. Most of the entire stack. Most of those cards will end your turn immediately if you take a card that's just kind of buried.
Yeah, through the deploy action. Yeah. So if it says that you can go for a card in that row, then it usually ends your turn.
Yeah. If you don't end your turn, though, you get to continue on by selecting a card from one of the other 3, because when you play into an area, you're going to select from one of the other 3 or from the top of the deck. If you choose one of the other 3 regions, each region has a special ability it gives you. So the Jupiter region lets you move up on the fleet track, which as you move up gives you potentially a lot of points. Like that's how you got most of your bonus points, was for this track. So it starts at 0, but it goes up to 43 points if you cap out at it. So that's one option. The Mars region, when you go there, you get to take one of these tokens here. They're considered helium, even though I don't know how we get helium crystals, but I guess it's cold enough.
Helium is used as the source of power in the books.
Okay.
So helium is used to terraform planets and things like that. So it's a very important energy source.
Yeah, I just wonder what the freezing point of helium is to make crystals. It's got to be pretty cold.
It's helium-3, so we don't know about helium.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes all the difference. Yeah, helium-3.
Helium-3 is like
you blow on it. It freezes.
very crystallized.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So that's Mars. Then if you take from Luna, that's how you get the Sovereign token. And if you get that, each person has a special ability on their starter card that tells what they do when they take the Sovereign token. So it varies by the cards, and you shuffle these at the beginning to get one faction that you're part of. Then you have the Institution. The Institution lets you accumulate your cubes here. You start with 10 cubes. You get to place one into the Institution. Whoever has the most of these gets the most points. Everybody goes there, gets something.
Yeah.
But whoever has the most gets the most points. We'll get to scoring. We'll talk about that. So then after you've taken the action from those locations, the other option instead is to take a card from here. If you didn't take one of these cards, if you take the card from here, there's the die, the rising die, as Rob mentioned. You roll that, and whichever faction comes up, there's these 4 will trigger.
And then there's 2 others.
There's 2 others. There's one that lets you trash a card from a different location, And then there's the one that's the eye, where you just take a card from the deck and place it on any location, just adding more cards. It doesn't trigger anything. So that is your turn in the nutshell. So you keep taking turns until...
Well, that was one action you can do. The other action was scouting.
Oh, yeah, scouting.
So that was called leading, is the one way. And that's 90% of what you're doing is leading.
Scouting is once you've got a hand that you like the structure of and you don't want to change, if you don't want to play any of your cards or they don't have any benefit really in that action, you can take the top card from the deck and just place it into one of the 4 locations and trigger that location's ability.
Right. But you don't get the deploy action that's on the card.
So those are the 2 actions you take during the game. Generally, I didn't do that action until later in the game, whenever I had already got my hand structured in such a way that I was going to get the maximum points, unless like somebody threw a card that was just going to increase those points. So you're really building that hand out, trying to maximize your scoring potential in your hand. And there's nice combos that could be done based upon the cards that you get. I got a ton of combos going. I think Maya actually even had a better hand.
I think so, yeah.
But she actually had one more card than I did, so I gave her a little bit of a bonus. But yeah, you can get a nice combo. I had everything laid out, so I only had one card that actually gave me less than 30 points in my hand. So, so that's what your main goal is. But the game will end when someone has reached the level 7 on the fleet track. Someone else has reached 7 cubes in the institution, and someone else has reached 7 of the helium 3s.
Or one person
has done 2 of those. So in our case, we had 3 different people reach the 7 level on them. And generally, I think that's where it's likely to happen, because it's hard to cap out on 2 of them simultaneously. You focused all your energy on the fleet track. I focused my energy primarily on the institution. And I was mostly just keeping up with the Joneses there to make sure that I was still at the top of it.
And you eked out at the very end of the game.
Yeah. And Julio, he focused on the helium. So, and some of the characters, that's what they're predisposed to. Like his character got a free helium every time he triggered his sovereign ability. And Christian's ability gave him an extra cube in the institution. So that's why he came in second there. I capped out above him slightly. That's really the game in pretty much in its entirety. Then this is scoring. So the scoring, you're going to score first any special in-game abilities that you have on any of the cards, and they have it looks like a kind of record button.
Yeah, like a record play
like on old VCRs.
On VCR, yep.
Yeah, and then the second thing is you're going to score your entire hand of cards. Then you're going to score the fleet track. You're going to score the institution, the oil,
the helium.
Helium. You're going to score the helium, not the oil.
Yeah.
And then
you lose points.
You lose points if you have excess of 7 cards in your hand. So
every card above 7 loses 10.
But that still may be less than the points you gained from it. So it's not that big of a penalty, because like I said, most of the cards are going to score you net more than 10.
But that might make the difference of when you're losing the game.
Yeah. Now there are some cards we found that gave you negative victory points at the end of the game.
So
you got to be careful on
Christian lost 16 points because he lost a point for every card that was banished.
Yeah.
And so
that was harsh.
That was pretty harsh.
Yeah. So I like the fact there's a lot of ways to score in this game. So
but I think definitely the most complex part of it is the combination, getting the right combination of cards. I didn't score as high as I would have liked because I was looking for a specific character. And if I'd have got that character, I would have scored quite a few more points, but I never could find it. So it was buried in the deck. And so that was unfortunate for me, but Maya lucked out and she got the right combination of cards. Randy got a good combination of cards at the beginning of the game. So you didn't have to work too hard.
Well, there was a set of 3, but I had one of them, and I had a surrogate card that could act like any other character. And then you threw me the other one I needed. So that completed my set of 3 that I needed. The only thing that would have made it better is if I fished and got the actual one, and because of the one that I had was only worth 15 points to me at the end of the game. That was my only lower than 30-point card. So all in all, I like the mechanics of this game. It just took us a little bit to understand it, because at first we were all a little confused on how this worked from the instruction. But once we got playing, it started making more sense. And
The cheat sheet is a card. I think it's a very good cheat sheet. It tells you how to set it up, tells you in-game scoring, turnover view, and the iconography.
yeah,
So
it is a good cheat card.
it's a very good cheat card. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, and they do have a score pad in there for capturing scores, but we were playing with 5 players and adding up your own individual cards. We all got calculators out pretty much. So it is something where you're going to have to, because you have to do the math on the points on each card and the bonus points on each card.
Yeah, and they look at each card, so it can get a little confusing.
Yeah,
so.
And everybody was calling out numbers, so I lost count like 3 times during it and had to start over. And one of my cards triggered in the first round, and I left it out, so I forgot to count it when I added up my points. So there was a lot of just, I guess, chaos during that.
But that's definitely the most complicated part, is tabulating the score.
Yeah. So all in all, I liked this game. I thought I'd heard mixed on this, so I was going in with kind of I'm not sure if this is going to be good or not, but I did pick it up on a daily deal from Card House, so I was pretty happy with the price I got it for, and you got a special deal on it too.
I found the retail version at Target for the same price that Card House has it for. So so it's a good price either way.
Yeah. So all in all, for the money we paid, I thought it was a good game
for sure.
Now I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get the special edition of it, but all in all, the pieces that are in it are pretty good too. Yeah. So it's not horrible. And I don't think this is one that's probably going to be like get to the table a whole lot, but
I think Miranda would like it though.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
So I'm going to probably go ahead and give this an 8. I think that's where I'm at on it.
I agree. I mean, thematically, it's really good, but it's nothing that blew me out of the water. But it's fun, and I could definitely get it out. I can see other people that I play with that would like it as well. So I think 8's a good, solid score for it.
All right. Well, that's our assessment of Red Rising. Hopefully, you check it out and see what you think of it.
Let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So enjoy, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. So go. Make sure you and
Ow.
Okay.